Good evening and welcome to the season premiere of the Pixel Crashers podcast where right before we start streaming, literally everything breaks. This has been 4 years of this. 4 years of everything breaking right before we start streaming. I am Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by... Why are all the things messed up? Everything is literally messed up. I'm joined by...
Well, there's more of you, Rose. You don't think we could... our cloning experiment works. Sort
Anyway, I'm joined by GloriousKev.
Praise Lisa Sue!
Xaiphen, who his Twitter has changed. Yeah, it's different now. It's Xaiphened up, not Xaiphened up, because he doesn't like past participles.
I don't like the underscore. It's more what it is. But it came up as one of the suggestions, like, you know what, that sounds kind of like Level Up. I'm going to go with it.
There you go. And Lila Rose is also here.
Just trying to foobar everything.
You obviously don't need to do that. I managed to do it all myself.
It's hot as fuck, and Rose got this damn sweater on.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by that. That seems a little...
I've got an air conditioning vent right behind me, so I'm cold.
God, that must be nice.
I was shivering.
Start mining while you're during the podcast.
So this is just Rose's weekly L after the L she took last week.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to highlight the L Rose took when she was talking shit to me, killing floor. About how I need to get good, and I laughed her and score at that point.
Oh, that L. Okay, I was gonna say this week's
how many L's are you taking?
I mean, I did lose that Type 9 with 750 million credits.
Yeah,
in Elite Dangerous.
Oh, that's another massive L.
Yeah.
We could talk. I've been playing Three Kingdoms because, of course, I play Three Kingdoms. Mm-hmm. I was in a siege battle with the faction I was at war with, the Duchy of Song. Well, the Kingdom of Song at the time. I was taking his capital, his kingdom, and they had 6 soldiers, and I had 3,000 with 5,000 reinforcements. So you just see the meters just all green, decisive victory, and I'm just thinking like, okay, exactly how much piss did those 6 soldiers let out when they saw, I don't know, 8,000 people show up at their door like, hey, we taking this shit over?
The part that Kev didn't tell everybody is that he actually lost that battle.
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm steamrolling at this point.
He had 20,000 troops, they had 6, and he still lost. No idea how that works. I'm not even going to try to say that there was any sort of logic to that.
I mean, there's no logic to what you're saying. Oh, shout out to the guy I met in ranked match that was cheating. And the reason I say he was cheating, we start the match, and his entire cavalry spawns behind me out of nowhere. The map doesn't load at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I lose control of half of my forces, just randomly. Right. And everything else on screen where they just won't do what they won't let me click on shit with them.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly this dude was hacking.
Yes. Clearly he was hacking, and it wasn't just Kev that wasn't very skilled.
That's what I was gonna say.
And of course, let's also talk about Rose. Rose managed to lose $750 million materials and mining because she got lazy, let down her guard and got hit by a pirate while she's flying a giant tin can in Elite Dangerous.
Oh, she just talked about that.
It wasn't that I let down my guard. It was that a bunch of circumstances happened that I couldn't get out of. Especially with my FSD being fully charged in at the countdown, I couldn't cancel my charge up and throttle down to get out of the interdiction like I normally do.
Mm-hmm. For shame. And the game won't let her forget about it. That's the important part. We have to make sure.
The game won't let her forget about it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kept
It's a-
routing me
it's a-
through the system that I was going to sell everything to.
Damn.
Good stuff.
Yep. Of course, Xaiphen and Mort lost out the most because they were going to benefit from 1 week of mining.
I think next time we are going to have to work for that benefit and wing up with you on your return trip. I don't have firepower for really high-end combat, but at least I can act as a sacrifice while you charge up your FSC and run away.
Yeah.
I can just make a lot of really long jumps because I have a giant flying gas can in that game, and that's really all that I care about.
Well, I'm also going to be spending the next few weeks in the bubble leveling up my imp rank and my fed rank because I want them sexy big ships. I want the cutter.
Sexy big ships.
I want the cutter and I want the Corvette.
That's.
We all want Corvettes, Rose. We all want Corvettes.
I don't want a Corvette in real life.
Actually, I want a Charger.
Way
That's
too
what I
low to the
want.
ground for Ohio roads. That's not going to work out here.
Yeah,
I've seen the nasty end of that.
Elite.
I want a
awesome.
tank.
Yeah, that's. I want the cutter because yes, it's a giant big tank, but it's also pretty. Whereas the Corvette it's pretty in the military way, as in not at all.
He just got to badmouth it because I like it. I like the minimalist.
Yeah.
I also like the aft cockpit. I don't like being up front because it allows me to see where everything is and
I want
judge.
a fucking Ford Cube. That's what I want. There's efficiency for you. Raw efficiency. Just square that shit off.
Because
Type
in
10
space,
Defender.
Well, the thing is in space, there's no logical reason to have it shaped like with aerodynamics in mind.
Yeah.
Because the thing now in Elite, of course, you can land on planets, so I guess there's a reason for that. But I'm still gonna throw it out there. If you have a spaceship, no reason to have any aerodynamics because space doesn't have air. Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. Kev, of course, is a huge fan of Elite Dangerous. He plays it constantly. He's playing it right now, as a matter of fact.
There's a confused look on his face, like, are we still speaking English here?
You guys
Right.
know the GIF of John Travolta from Pulp Fiction, where he's standing there looking around like, "What?" That was Kev right then.
I'm sitting here like, you said Total War wrong? Because the fact that I have close
there's
to
no one to
90
see my
hours
what
of
the hell
Three Kingdoms
face.
already.
How long have you had Three Kingdoms, Kev?
Three Kingdoms has been out for about a month and a half, and I have close to 90 hours in it.
Kev, I want to throw something
Scrub.
out there. I've had Elite Dangerous for 2 weeks, and I have 96 hours, almost 100 hours into it.
So basically, yeah, but you only play like one game, like ever.
No, I've actually been playing Total War intermittently throughout that.
So you neglect your wife. See, it's one of the two. Or
Neglect
you're calling out
everything.
sick from work.
By the way, I haven't eaten in 6 days. Someone please send help.
See?
I've
See,
got
he's
141 hours
neglecting. See, he's not taking care of himself because he needs to play Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
Total War wouldn't give you these kind of problems.
That's
Total
my
War's kind of like
fiance
crack.
down right now.
Yeah. It kind of does.
I surprisingly
I
got
wouldn't be
141
surprised if he had
hours
Elite
of
Dangerous
already.
loaded up right now, actually.
I've been neglecting my Warframe time, though, to put that into Elite.
Well, I mean, I understand that neglecting Warframe. I'd neglect Warframe. Or not Warframe, but yeah, Warframe. I'd neglect Warframe.
Yeah. In any case, let's hop into our first story on here so we can have fun making jokes at all of the stuff that dumb shit that people do, because that's what we do here. So getting into it, our first story, yes, we get to talk about G2A again. Now, the reason why this story is so great is because this isn't the first time we've talked about G2A on this podcast. By the way, this is our 4-year anniversary. And in the 4 years we've been doing this podcast, We've talked about G2A, I think maybe 4 or 5 times distinctly at different points. Not like with Epic, where Epic's just kind of a rolling shitstorm of a mess that keeps coming back week after week. This has been like 1 year, we'll talk about G2A. Then 8 months later, they do something else stupid. And then another year later, they do something else stupid. And then back here we are again, talking about the stupid shit that G2A is doing. So
shout out to G2A though, and all the Anthem keys.
Yeah. So essentially,
Bioware earned that.
We are back to a very familiar refrain. Recently, an independent games developer actually stormed out a whole bunch of essentially angry tweets saying, "Hey, if you want to buy a game from G2A, just pirate it instead." Which I'm like, that's not the first time I've heard that. In fact, we've been hearing it since 2013, 2014, 2016.
Basically since they've been there.
Yeah, like people have been saying this for a long time, right? And recently we've kind of gotten 2 pieces of it. Like, first of all, the guy tweeted out saying, "Hey, this is the reason why it's bad for developers." Of course, the news media loves developers and talking about how poor developers are, and this is a perfect story for them to talk about. And the thing is that they G2A just can't help but shoot themselves in the face. Not just once, not like oh whoops, I accidentally pulled the trigger. No, there's a point where it's deliberate intent when you unload the entire magazine into your face. And that's kind of what they've metaphorically been doing, because they respond with silly things like, "We paid developers 10 times the money they lost on chargebacks from their illegally obtained keys that were sold on G2A." It's like, you just admitted that people sell illegally obtained keys on your site. They used to sell G2A Shield, which was a protection for consumers in case the keys were stolen. At what point you have created a service that you charge people money for in case the product you're buying from them is stolen? That says everything about your business model, and you should really rethink your life. And
just
then,
a little bit.
And then most recently, just because G2A can't stop being G2A, it was uncovered that they emailed about 10 different games media sites, smaller ones, not the biggest names, but kind of the slightly moderate grade ones, with essentially an offer to compensate those media sites to run a news story that it's a fluff piece for G2A, and essentially compensate them for it. Essentially paid propaganda.
Yay, propaganda!
Yeah.
So the first thing of note on there is that the biggest thing that comes to my attention on that is, firstly, that it kills me that nobody mentioned the fact of, well, how often does it happen that games media sites are getting offers like this, and maybe this is just the first time that it's being mentioned because G2A is so unpopular. Yeah. Like all the
they're popular enough to stick around.
No, I mean like all those Epic stories, those stories that paint Epic in a favorable light. Mm-hmm. Did the games media sites like PC Gamer get a similar email to the one that G2A sent out?
Doubt it.
I'm just throwing that out there. Like, it definitely throws into question how often that actually happens in the games media world. How often are there those fluff piece offers getting emailed out? I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. But more importantly,
well, I think the problem with the games media too is, even if you they'll do fluff pieces like that. Games media at large doesn't really see anything wrong, especially with what Epic's doing, because it's just an exclusive. It's like consoles. Exclusives are great, even though we know exclusives are shit.
Well, the thing is that it's it's all about the media storm, right?
Mhm.
As much as they can blitz out the media that says, "Hey, exclusives are great," but instead of focusing on like G2A's goof ups and how much of a failure they are, and more importantly, how badly they can manage to botch up a trying to recover their public image. I did actually want to talk about gray markets as a whole, and that includes G2A, that includes Kingwin, who's been a bit smarter about keeping themselves under the radar. G2A just can't help themselves. They apparently are not run by the smartest folks out there. Uh, but I want to talk about gray markets in general and the the effect that gray markets have to the consumer, both good and bad. And I know that, like, for example, in the past, like, I don't know, I'm always part of my confusion that I have to kind of look out for is I don't necessarily always know what's a gray market site, right? G2A, Kingwin to me have a lot very similar appearance to say Chrono.gg or itch.io or Green Man Gaming,
Actually,
right?
I think that's intentional.
Green Man, I don't know. Green Man to me reminds me more of Humble Bundle. I actually, the first time I went to itch.io, I thought it was a great key site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
You know?
like so,
And it's to the point where it's like if I don't know the company, then I kind of assume that they are. You know, and sometimes it might be something like, say, Fanatical, where they just changed their name. I knew Bundle Stars, but I didn't know they had gotten bought out at first.
So who was Fanatical? Who they used to be?
They used to be a site called Bundle Stars. They were kind of like a knockoff Humble Bundle where they had like a bunch of bundles, like Humble Bundle does, like their traditional Humble Bundles. But the difference is with the Bundle Stars, they would mostly be trash tier games. Kind of like what Indie Gala does with their bundles, but Indie Gala's on my shit list because they don't separate the kids game from the foreign games. And I had to explain cream pies to my 10-year-old, and you shouldn't have to do that because I was trying to show them Lego games. Yeah, no, they literally had like it was cream pie date simulator or something like that next to Lego games on the front page of their site.
Yeah, that's not okay.
That is
Yeah.
that is
That is scummy.
yeah.
I'm
So
like, why would you do that?
oh my, yeah.
Well,
I
Lego's,
tweeted out to them trying to figure out something. No response.
Lego's owned by Disney, isn't it?
Lego?
Yeah,
And
that's
now it
Lego
is.
movies, games.
I don't think Lego is. They
Oh, I was
they just
gonna say
license
that-
a lot of Disney stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, like
okay.
I will not support that. I
That's
will not
still,
support
like,
that story
that's
anymore. I don't
weird
even go
because,
there.
Like, Disney is super obsessive on making their children's stuff very isolated to children, and mixing that in with that kind of shit, that's inviting a lawsuit from Disney. I don't know what
Yeah.
they pushed the lawsuit, but they fucking try, and they've got the funding power to kind of do whatever the fuck they want at this point in time.
Yeah.
I just wish that they would just
surprised if they've
filter their
murdered
shit.
people.
Just filter your shit. That's all you got to do.
Right.
So, well, in any case, though, something I do want to, because I do want this to be a bit of educational on here. So, there was an article. This article that we have in focus here is actually from about 2 years ago, and the conversation around G2A is just comically similar to what we're dealing with today. Same thing. Developers out there saying they would rather you pirate the game than buy it from G2A. The whole thing, and G2A stumbling all over themselves with bad PR mistakes, etc. Like I said, this is not the first time that G2A has stepped on themselves. They keep doing this over and over again, and people just keep like nothing's changed. There has been no change to that market, and for that matter, part of what happens is in their media blitz, what they actually do correctly is they actually have a lot of big name streamers that are partnered with G2A that get money from G2A. They will actually kind of fluff them on streams where thousands of Twitch viewers are watching. Which to
Isn't
me,
that against Twitch policy though to get fluffed on the live stream?
no, as far as I'm aware, it's not. Like, and they've had
Maybe
it
we
where
have two different ideas of what fluffing is.
Fluff pieces, Kev. Propaganda, reading out
Kev,
pre agreed upon.
Oh no! I legitimately was not sure what Mort was getting at when he said they were fluffing. I'm like, what?
When I'm fluffing a company, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm actually just, it is metaphorical. It is metaphorical for doing the other things that you might be thinking of, Kev. In many ways. Let's just say that those streamers probably have knee pads on all the time.
It's much the same.
That's fair. And you know what? Any of the streamers out there that get offended by that, I don't give a fuck.
Any of the streamers that get offended, wipe your chin off before you talk to me.
Yeah. Like, listen, you are taking money from one of the scummiest fucking companies in the games industry who sell stolen fucking goods, or if they're not selling stolen goods, because that's admittedly a minority of the keys that are sold, they're selling keys that were sold to third world developing markets. They go and they buy up hundreds of thousands of keys from those markets, resell them to first world countries, which is what we're going to be talking about mostly here, that ends up fucking over the economy for those games in those areas. But you know what? Get offended by me telling you that you're sucking fucking G2A's cock. I don't care. Anyway, so one of the things that, in being more educational here, yes, as I get done making a rant about giving G2A fellatio. So something, when I say who's a gray market site in general, essentially a gray market site is any sort of market that circumvents authorized channels of distribution. And it doesn't necessarily have to sell for lower prices than the authorized channels, although usually that's the case. And the prime example that, and the big thing on here, what separates a gray market from a black market is the fact that it's legal. So that's the big thing on here. Yeah. There's nothing illegal that's happened. Yeah,
they're barely legal teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, just evolving.
I think these euphemisms are going to keep going for a while.
Yep, it is. But the thing is, the biggest example in current use of a gray market site is actually Amazon. Amazon's marketplace is a gray market. Now granted, it's a gray market mixed with a white market because you do have manufacturers that sell through Amazon as an authorized retailer, but then you also have those same exact products being resold from third-party developer or third-party manufacturers or resellers that are not authorized. So you've got kind of the gray. They're a light gray market.
Yeah, a light gray market because they've taken a lot of flack over those counterfeit items being sold side by side with the authentic items.
Oh hell no, they haven't. They haven't done shit about that. You know what Amazon does? If they see a product that's selling well, that they see as a high value product, a high profit margin product, what they'll do is they'll start manufacturing their own counterfeit version of it, undercut the price of the original company, put their item higher in the search listings, and bury the other one so that it sells out. And then once it destroys enough of the value of the original company, they'll go and buy out that company and destroy it. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know,
that's a very Sony thing to do. That's a very EA thing to do.
Yeah, no, Amazon makes EA and BioWare and all those guys look like fucking amateurs. So, by the way, as
I just
Prime
meant
Day,
the EA thing to do. Buy up all your competitors and then close them down when they ain't doing what you want anymore.
No. Trust me when I say that EA ain't got shit on Amazon. As Prime Day, by the way, is day after tomorrow. Just so you know, if you buy something on Amazon for Prime Day, you are funding a cancer to the global economy. I'm just throwing that out there, just letting you know.
Unfortunately, this is not where Amazon makes most of their money. So even if nobody bought anything on Prime Day, it wouldn't.
The thing
they make a lot, but bulk of that is AWS.
Well, now it is. It only overtook the marketplace, I think, about a year and a half ago. At which point it is just barely over half of their overall revenue, but AWS is still their big thing. For those that aren't aware, AWS is Amazon Web Services. That's their cloud services department, in which case they are the largest cloud services provider in the world.
Are they? I thought Azure was. Are they bigger? How much bigger are they than Azure?
Apple. No. They are by far much larger than Azure. Azure probably has about 1/3 of the cloud services market. Then about half is in the hands of AWS, and then you have a few smaller providers. There's also
top three are Amazon, Azure, and Google in that order, I believe.
Well, there's also niche cases in there. There's also like Cloudflare, who also is a big time deal, but it depends on what cloud offerings you're using. I'm not going to devolve too far into that, but AWS is the big boy, and that does provide a huge amount of income, but the marketplace is still a big deal, and the marketplace for Amazon is a gray market primarily. They do sell unauthorized distribution channels, but it's legal. Before that, you obviously have Craigslist and eBay, which are oftentimes two other sided channels for selling goods. And
it's legal in China.
Huh?
I said it's legal in China.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Craigslist and eBay have gotten hit by similar lawsuits with. Craigslist was a very specific case. That one was adult services in relation to human trafficking.
Yeah.
And eBay was something else too. I can't remember what eBay's issue was, and both of them had to clean themselves up a little bit.
Oh, they were straight up selling stolen goods. Like people were fencing stolen goods through eBay.
Oh, yeah, see, the only thing I knew about was what Xaiphen was getting at when they had the hookers.
Yeah, Craigslist.
That's one thing I knew about.
What's that, Rose?
eBay also was getting in trouble for selling medical stuff.
That's right.
Like people were selling insulin pumps. People were selling stuff that requires a prescription to even use, and that was a big problem then.
Yeah, that's a huge no-no.
Yeah,
but that's the thing is Amazon has kept themselves in the clear by staying away from things like that. They stay in the legal product category instead of like, hey, we're going to just not manage anything, whether you want to put illegal products on here or not. We don't care. But that's how Amazon has not taken as much flack as those other two. And, gaming situations have tried to keep it somewhat similar too, but now they're running into issues with potential stolen keys.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is something to note on there with Amazon, eBay, Craigslist. Something that's important to note on there is despite the scummy shit that those sites have done, there's a reason why all of those have been very careful to stay the fuck away from third-party reselling of digital distribution goods, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking nightmare. It's impossible to keep track of anything that you're selling through digital distribution, if it's stolen, if it's legitimate, whatever. Now, they do sell digital goods authorized only. Like, you can go and buy digital downloads for PC, Xbox, PlayStation games that are authorized channels, that are distributed through official channels. But they won't do it.
I can buy my time card for work?
Huh?
No.
No.
I meant like time cards for Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 11, those kinds of games. Even EVE Online. Yeah, I just thought about that.
But whatever.
I'm not aware of the time cards. Are those ones? Are they like the old Warcraft model?
No, that's the old MMO model of essentially that you would buy time cards, which was essentially a period of time for subscriptions. Like, here's a 1 month subscription, a 3-month subscription, a year-long subscription that was in card form.
I get it. I don't know because I don't play games specifically like that intentionally for the same reason I've never subbed to Warcraft. Yeah. If I buy the game, it's mine. I don't want to pay for Xbox Live, and to me, that's just the equivalent of Xbox Live.
To be fair, we'll not devolve into that. Anyway, so gray market is a legal place, but it's unauthorized by the actual manufacturer of the good, right? So that's a big thing to remember. So when you look at Green Man Gaming, itch.io, those sites, those are actually authorized distribution channels. And essentially, most of the time, how that works is, say I'm a publisher of a game, I will publish the game on Steam, and then I will then generate Steam keys, which Steam does not get a cut off of. If you remember my ranting about this, Steam gets no cut of those. Then I will sell those Steam keys through sites like Green Man Gaming. People buy them on there, it gives them a Steam key, they activate that Steam key on Steam, and bam, it's almost as if they bought it on Steam, except for they may get it for a slightly less price, lower price. And the reason for that is actually something brought up in this article, which is actually talking about how a lot of times publishers will use those smaller marketplaces like that as a way to test pricing. So they'll like throw $5 off their game to see if they get better latch onto their game, or $10 off or something like that, and see how many more people buy it. And that's a good way for them to test pricing. That also allows them to have more isolated sales to draw in more people buying the game, but without doing that on their main marketplace of Steam. So my question to you guys on there is, first of all, do you guys, when you guys are shopping around for games, do you guys primarily tend to look at only Steam or the mainline stores, or do you kind of hunt down things and try to find the biggest deals that you can?
Neither. I use there's actually this Razer app that it's called Razer Cortex. You can like import in all of your wish lists from like Steam and GOG and all those guys, and it'll email you deals. It'll just basically take all the legitimate deals on there, and it'll just say, hey, boom, 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 from all the various legitimate key sites. Like, I'm not getting G2A, not getting CD keys, none of those guys. And I'll usually just wait it out. Like,
aside from the Razer plug, that's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, Razer does it. There's a couple. There's another site. Is there any deals? They send out emails for it. Yeah, there's quite a few. Like I'm just looking through some Razer emails I'm getting now.
There was also another promo site that I've posted up. That's how we got Breach for free, which turned out to be a good thing.
Alienware Arena.
Yeah, Alienware Arena. We got some free games. It was a promo code on there, and to be fair, it was actually turned out to be a very smart thing to get it from that promo site, because the game shut down a month later. So
was it even a whole month?
Yeah, I think it was about a month.
Yeah.
Because we streamed it once, and then we were gonna stream it a second time right before it shut down, and Kev didn't want to do that because he rage quit the first time we played it.
Kev's not missing the loss of that game.
Oh no! I remember y'all just pissed me off. That's what that was. It wasn't even.
Kev straight rage quit. It was amazing.
Yep.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge
y'all
the
were
fact
being dicks.
Yeah, we were. And you guys got to realize,
it wasn't even the game that pissed me off. It was you guys.
You guys got to realize how hard it is to offend or anger Kev for him to rage quit. That's how big of dicks we were being.
Yeah, y'all were just being completely toxic and pissed me off.
So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that it takes a lot to get Kev to that point.
I'm surprised that it wasn't me, because it's like I've shared the picture of how bad my rage quit can be.
Yep.
Where
I mean, like, I think Zach is the one here who hasn't pissed me off more than once.
Yeah. When you're around people for that long, it tends to happen.
Right.
But now, so here's the thing, is that the main question to ask whenever you're dealing with gray market sites, and this is the part that I kind of wanted to hit on, is how are gray market sites like G2A getting keys for games? And obviously the big one that usually comes up in conversation is stolen keys, or, well, not stolen per se, it's actually particularly bought with a stolen credit card. For example, third world, like, your credit card could have been stolen at any point in time, or the number could have been stolen at any point in time from any number of methods, and it just floats around on the dark web for months at a time, and then it gets bought up by some unscrupulous individual. They go and they just buy 100 games or 200 or 300 games from whatever particular Steam or whatever, and then they will go turn around and resell them through their own account on G2A. And then when you buy them, as far as what the gentleman was talking about most recently, is they don't directly buy keys for the game anymore. They buy Steam gifts, which apparently allows them to bypass a lot of the potential blowback and chargebacks from those. Whenever you buy a Steam gift and then you charge it back, the person who ends up with a Steam gift doesn't get the gift removed, which is something that's pretty scuzzy. Like, and well, I mean, if you're the person that bought it from G2A, you're not knowingly buying something stolen, but whatever. The other thing on there is, and this was one that I had forgotten about until I reread this article, in particular, is that the whenever you have a game getting ready to be released, a lot of media sites will send out a standard templated email to the publisher saying, hey, we're a news publication, we would like to review your game, etc., etc. And then that publisher will send them out like a key or two to activate the game so their tester can test the game, write a review on it, and so on. There are some that claim to be media outlets that are not, that are actually deliberately bad actors that will send out those emails, get keys from the publisher, and then resell those keys on the gray market sites. Now, the main point that I wanted to bring up on that one is how that negatively impacts things is that gives publishers an excuse not to give out review copies of games, which means reviewers can't review the game before launch, which means people looking to purchase a game at launch are blinded to information that might critically affect their decisions to purchase. That to me is a pretty major influence on the consumer side of the equation that no one seems to be talking about currently. But I ask you guys, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's okay for games media guys like to, if they're not going to play a game, maybe it's a good actor, like legitimately it's a legitimate news media site, and a publisher proactively sends them keys to a game that they're not interested in playing or reviewing, so they sell it. Do you guys think that that's okay?
Not
I don't
really.
have a problem with it.
Well, let's do one at a time. Let's go with Kev. What was that?
I honestly don't have any problem with it.
Why is that?
Especially if you're randomly just sending out keys. Like, don't send out keys willy-nilly. Like,
well, they have an established contact list of games media outlets that they will send keys.
Okay, yeah, so you were making it sound like they just kind of just sending them out to whoever, whatever. I'm like, if you just send it out to somebody and your shit gets sold, that's kind of on you.
No, I mean, like, they'll have, like, IGN, Kotaku, whatever. They'll have, like, a couple of dozen. Yes, all the big names will be on there, but there'll also be a lot of smaller or lesser-known names that will be on their press docket that they will send out those keys to.
Okay.
Now, so do you think that that's still okay, or is that pretty?
No, I was thinking you were like they were just spamming them out. I'm like, if you're spamming them out, and your shit gets sold, oh well. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting out there in good faith, you have this relationship, yeah, that becomes a violation of trust.
What do you think, Rose?
I was going to say something along the same lines, but the other thing to consider is they're getting it for free. Why are they making money off of it anyways?
They're making money off of it with the review anyway.
Why are they selling it if they're not going to use that key? Just don't use it.
Yeah,
I've got a two-way option on that. Rose, I'm sorry. I need to stop interrupting people. Rose, you weren't done yet.
Actually, I was pretty much done, but yeah.
I apologize for that. That's a dick move. Well, like I see it two ways on that. Is going back to Kev's, like, I bought the game, I own the game sort of feature right there. Now, they're not buying the games; they're getting the keys given to them, but they are effectively buying the games with their review. They're giving publicity to the publisher, developer, whoever's sending them the keys. Now, if they get the keys, they don't do a review, they don't do anything in trade for that key. They have no right to do anything with it. But if they do provide some service and trade for that key, then they have a right to, like, say, reselling your old used games that you don't play anymore, which is not really a thing with a nearly all digital environment. Most people can't get away with doing that. But in that situation, if you can, you've paid for it by some means or another. It may not be money, but that publicity, especially if the game reviews well, more than makes up for the cost of the game. Looking at a monetary value factor. If it's a bad review, then it's in the negative. But either way, they're still doing work for that key. They're trading something that's just not money. It's a more of a service trade. So I could see value in them. And here's the thing: as a matter of a business, they shouldn't sell it off. It would be much better to host a giveaway. Granted, they only have one copy of the key to give away, but they could say, hey, the first person to comment on this, or randomly selected person, or whatever, can get this key given to them.
Yeah. So here's my thing on there. Firstly, from standards of ethics, it is absolutely atrocious and horrible to if a business gives you a product to test and review in good faith that you are going to test and review it, and you did not have time, or in some way or another you were not interested, or you're not going to test or review that product, ethics would dictate that you then return it or let them know. So, like in the case of a game key, email them back and say thank you for the offer, but we're not going to be able to review this product. And that way they can maybe invalidate that key or send it off to another media site to review. Because those keys, yes, they can spin up as many keys as they want, but ideally you don't want to just like kind of flood the market with those keys, because that's how this shit happens. That's how these gray markets flourish, is by these keys getting flooding the market. And the other thing on there is that reviewers in general are seen, or at least supposed to be, in a place of consumer trust, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is the publisher trusts the reviewer to give their product a fair shake, and the consumer trusts the reviewer to be giving their product give fair information about a product that is not unduly biased. Granted, that doesn't happen a lot anymore. We can all admit that there's a lot of reviews that are biased by various factors, not the least of which being political agendas and
too much fluffing going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of fluffing and politics and shit that are unduly biasing reviews, but the basic concept is there's supposed to be trust between manufacturer and reviewer and consumer and reviewer. And whenever you break one part of that, that means that it gives the publisher or manufacturer a reason to not give a reviewer products to review, and then that removes the trust from the reviewer to the consumer, because the reviewer is no longer providing that service to the consumer. So it kind of negates that channel, and that's where I have a major problem with it. But it, I also
like finish your thought, because I have another thought I want to add on top of
Go
this.
ahead.
That
I'm done.
I don't. It's going away from what you're saying. So finish what you're saying.
I'm going to continue on where do the keys come from. So you have a tangential thought. Go ahead.
Okay, I was thinking, because we know I can't just sit and just chat. I'm doing things constantly with my hands on the podcast. I did this month's Humble Monthly, and I'm thinking about doing the yearly thing because I really like the Humble Monthly. but I oftentimes get duplicate keys. Where does me selling these duplicate keys fall in on this? If I wanted to just sell my key on G2A and it's just a key I've gotten off of Humble Bundle as part of my Humble Monthly, but it's a key I already have, or a game I already have, which happens quite a bit. Just because I have a lot of games.
And in that case, I think that, well, go ahead, right?
I think that's what G2A is actually kind of for, ideally.
I'd say give it to a friend.
Why? I've already paid for it. Why not get my money back?
The way I see it is I actually can kind of agree with Kev on here. I feel like that if it was just people selling duplicate keys or stuff like that, just friendly, casual stuff, at what point you are making a living and making hundreds of thousands of dollars reselling keys, that's where it's a problem. And the thing is G2A, they are rich as fuck off of these resales. And that would not happen.
Zero fucks.
Yeah, that would not happen.
I think it comes into a volume issue. If you got Humble, you get a few here and there, as opposed to you're getting a review a week, you're getting a key a week or more, several a week.
Oh, it's more than that.
Yeah, that's what's. But I look at, like, when you get into the ethical area, I see nothing ethically wrong with my example. Or if, say, like when they give out the keys with the graphics cards, you know, I already have this game, but I really wanted the graphics card. I'm not interested in this game. I sell the key. I see nothing wrong with that. What I do see something wrong with, stolen credit cards, obviously, or when they do like game giveaways, like Humble Bundles constantly giving out free games. And don't go and sell that key. That's a no-no. But if it's your key that you legally obtained through like something like maybe like a bundle, or I don't know, however you did it, and you have maybe like 1 or 2 copies, I don't see a problem.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. Yeah, that like I said, that to me is one of the few legitimate avenues that I think that a gray market site should flourish. And to be fair, I think we had a discussion years ago about Xbox and the secondary sales market for digital games. If you go way back, we talked about that a long time ago. Essentially, where so the thing is that publishers don't want a secondary sales market. They hate it because they don't make money off of secondary sales. That includes gray market sites, but that also includes
used games, used console games.
Yeah, authorized resellers, which are like, your GameStop and so on, that sell physical copies resale. The publisher doesn't remake money off of that. But the truth is they already fucking made money off of it once, and most people are not going to be reselling their games, because what are they going to do? They're going to buy up a dozen keys of a brand new game come out at $60 a pop and then resell them for $50? That makes no sense. They would make no money off of that. So that's not really a business model of any kind. It's only if they can sell it for higher and get away with it. Well, with digital copies, there's a near infinite number of them, so you can't buy up all the copies and then hold them hostage and resell them for higher. That has happened with other markets where it's a physical good. But so
I mean, you have the crazy ones too, where we're talking about people that now the publishers don't like when you resell the games. Nintendo's crazy about that.
Oh yeah, Nintendo hates that.
Nintendo's one of the worst. They don't want you selling your, like, if they could control like the actual retro physical games market, I think they would.
Yep.
And I'm actually surprised that they haven't done anything like that to get into that market. That market, that's like a huge industry onto itself, to just retro gamers.
Yep.
And I'm actually shocked that Nintendo hasn't found a way to really tap into that.
Well, they've tried with the retro, the Nintendo Classic or whatever, the NES Classic.
They did that, and they even admitted to saying they did that because the Wii U tanked in sales. So they were doing the NES Classic and the SNES Classic just until the Switch came out, to keep revenue coming in. Which I was disappointed because I think I was one of those people, I never ended up getting one of those classics. I wanted to get an NES Classic. I just couldn't find it anywhere. I was a Genesis kid. I was never into the Super Nintendo like that. The PlayStation 1 Classic was a huge disappointment.
Not everybody can be perfect and have played Nintendo as a kid.
I've played Super Nintendo. I just prefer the Genesis. And we know, and I think we've talked about the PlayStation 1 has a special place in my heart. That's my favorite console of all time, the original PlayStation.
Yeah, but not everybody can be perfect and have owned and primarily used the superior of the original two console wars. The winner, the Nintendo, which was a superior console, of course. We all know it, but you know.
What about that Atari versus Intellivision war?
That's older than I am. That's before my time. I started gaming on the NES.
What about the ColecoVision? I mean, like, come on now.
Before my time. You old people need to cut that shit out.
I think ColecoVision and the Amiga and Commodore 64 all died out before we had that Atari versus Intellivision war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in any case, I'm kind of moving it back on topic on here because I'm trying to breeze through a lot of condensed data here very quickly. The other conversation on there is cheap region keys. Now, here's a thing. This one, to me, is a little bit frustrating, right? So you have areas where a $1 doesn't equal €1. That's kind of a mantra that GOG has been all about, where they try to give fair exchange rates for the value of a game. So if a game is $60 USD, then they will charge an equivalent in euros, GBP, and other currencies around the world where they can, right? The example given here is, Subnautica was on sale at the time of the writing this a couple of years ago for $12 US, right? The European price was $12 euro, which made no sense. And in Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, the translation at that time was $13.27, which means people in Europe were having to pay more for the game. Saudi Arabia, it was $33.66, which was the equivalent of about $9 US. So you'd see there's little weird fluctuations like that. The catch is the European Union has a law, well, not a law, it's a trade guideline, if you will, that says that if you sell a product in one EU country and you sell it in another EU country for less money, you cannot prevent people going from one EU country to the other EU country buying it for less. Because it's meant to be free and open trade. This recently, a few months back, got applied to Steam. Regulators were actually from the EU were looking at Steam because at one point, years ago, Steam had the ability for publishers to region lock Steam keys, not Steam Store activations, but Steam keys. The publisher could choose to region lock the key and charge different prices based upon region, which violated that code in the EU. Well, they'd long since stopped doing that because, it just didn't serve them. The catch is that policy of region locking a key and charging a different price for it would be the exact thing that would eliminate G2A being able to make money as it is. If I go to Slovakia, which is a poor as fuck country, and buy a game for $5, equivalent of $5 US, and then I come back to the US and I sell it for $30, I'm making a $25 profit, but the game sells for $60 US, brand new. I'm making huge profits, and people are grabbing it up because I'm selling it at a 50% discount. But if the region key, or if the key was region locked, I could only activate it if I was another person from Slovakia. Or if I ran a VPN all the time that said I was Slovakian, which wouldn't make much sense because it would tank my internet. Yeah.
That'd be slow as shit.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that unfortunately, I understand the idea behind the EU and them trying to keep open trade, but anyway.
I like it. It doesn't apply. Obviously, doesn't apply to all situations, but I like it more than I don't.
Yeah. And And the thing is that let's get. And here's actually the one that that Kev was talking about, the past sale bundle keys, where you have duplicates. Kind of already talked about that. Present promotional keys and stolen illegitimate keys on here. So the biggest things that we look at from the kind of perspective of the consumer, though, is when you're getting keys from these multiple different sources. One of the big things about it is that G2A has demonstrably not had any method of checking to see if a key if it was a bundle key. There would be a way that you could probably find out if that key was part of Humble Bundle. In which case you're like,
the better
yeah.
question is do they actually give a fuck?
They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
In fact, whenever there was at one point in time, do you guys remember that Reddit thread from years ago where the guy, like, it was a G2A Q&A, and G2A was answering questions, and one guy was like, y'all are a bunch of fraudsters. Like, I can right now sell something on G2A, and you guys won't check it for anything. And they're like, no, we have fraud checking prevention stuff. And this guy did screen cap after screen cap of, here's me posting up a fake key that is not for any game. Here's you guys approving it moments later. Like, and then essentially their response was, well, since you broke the rules, we've banned your account. It's like,
Well, yeah, we can't debate it, so we're just gonna ban you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst part about it is what they did to him in that case. They didn't ban his account. They made it so that he could still upload and sell keys and get money from them, but he couldn't withdraw money from his G2A account. So they did
so they made it so profitable for them.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, dude, that's so many levels of scummy. That was a couple years back. I don't remember what happened with that. I just remember reading about that. Joe posted up about that years ago. We might have even talked about it on the podcast. I can't remember at this point. That was from 2016. It's been a long time.
Joe was on the podcast. He was supposed to be here tonight.
Joe was on. Well, I mean, we tried to get Jeremy and Joe on, but they unfortunately were busy.
If people remember Jeremy, he was like on like the first 3 podcasts.
I think he's on longer than that. I can't remember at this point.
He wasn't on very long.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy was like
I tried.
Yeah. All good.
He spent most of the podcast playing Rocket League anyway.
He did. It's not.
I don't know what would be worse, is that or Reddit.
But
Rocket League, because he would react to Rocket League while we were talking.
So what Major would, he would like just randomly start laughing, and it would be whatever subreddit
I
he
laugh
was
at
reading.
Twitter. I laugh at Twitter while we're doing this. We know I'd be on Twitter.
Yeah, that's not true. Not false at all. So then the I guess in summary question is, if you guys, from your experience on there, if you were to try to implement a secondary sales method, how do you think you would try to do something like G2A that would essentially not be scummy like G2A?
Implement loot boxes.
Yeah, there you go. Kev's got the answer.
Yeah, there. Kev's
Sorry. Hold on,
Mike,
Kev. I need you to walk that back. Surprise mechanics.
But they're not surprises.
Yeah, because
I would say set up some kind of automated system that checks keys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first step right there. Validate your keys.
So what do you mean?
Check my loot boxes.
Check them.
As in, check to see if they're stolen. Check to see if they're supposed to be for a specific region, or whether or not there's some kind of promotional item. If it's something that should be sold in the area. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that they would have to communicate with the publishers or developer, whoever's dealing with the key or whoever's pushing the keys. They'd have to communicate with the source of the keys to see exactly what they need to set up in their system. That way they don't need to worry about a whole lot of man hours to check and approve them. Get an automated system going, and they can still deal with their hands-off approach. If something slips through the cracks, at least they made a fucking effort.
Yeah, but that requires them to actually give a shit.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Kev, how would you do it?
I already said implement loot boxes.
You know, funny that you should mention that. Wasn't it a while back that G2A actually had loot boxes for a sale they were having where you could buy a loot box game for sale?
Well,
Yeah.
Like,
G2A.
oh man, oh gosh, there's just so much to unpack here. It's just,
Right?
Rose, how would you implement a secondary sales site?
I'd partner with some of these other sites. I'd try and partner with Steam a little bit so that the keys could be verified. I'd partner with Green Man Gaming or Humble Bundle to help give people a way to sell those games that they already have. So like in Kev's case, it's like, oh, just a click of the button, it puts it up for sale there. It gives you a credit in like Green Man Gaming for X amount of dollars when it sells.
But I want cash. I got rent to pay. That $4 is gonna help.
It's my money and I want it now.
Damn it.
JG Wentworth, guys. Oh no! Don't call JG Wentworth. They're scam artists. Just by the way, just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
It's a scam. Don't fall for it.
The financial
Is it insurance? If it's insurance, it's always a scam.
Yeah.
The financial advisor that convinces you to get an annuity to begin with is a fucking scam artist.
That's true too.
So you're getting double
Praise 'em.
scammed with that shit.
Praise them.
Yeah. So in any case, I think we've rambled on long enough about G2A. From the consumer standpoint, buying from G2A will, in the long run, screw you over because it will destroy tertiary pieces of the consumer market, which makes things better for you as a consumer. So if you're thinking about buying a game for cheap, Humble Bundle, Green Man Gaming, itch.io, those sites are all legit. But Kingwin, G2A, these gray market sites, cdkeys.com I think is also a gray market site as well.
I believe they are.
Yeah.
Though I'll confess I bought Anthem on a gray key site because
You know
I wasn't
what?
sure about it.
You know,
broken as
to be
fuck,
fair,
and
to be completely fair, I would buy Anthem on G2A. Just gonna throw that out there.
But I mean, at least when I bought Fallout 76, I bought it on Humble Bundle.
Hey, I'm pretty much so here's my advice to consumers out there.
I'm surprised.
If you're gonna buy an Activision Blizzard, an EA, Ubisoft, Bethesda game, any of those four publishers, buy them off of G2A, 100%. Because you're essentially taking money from those big publishers and giving them the big middle finger. However,
while we're at it, they sell Xbox Live and PSN too.
Oh,
now the Epic Fail would argue that you're taking money away from developers, not the publishers.
I had a debate with somebody on Twitter about that this morning.
We've already covered how that's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
He told me I needed to support the developers, and I was like, "Why do I need to support EA? They released a broken game."
That's right. The misnomer, and we'll cover this really briefly.
I called him a corporate slave and into the conversation.
Well, I mean, there was that the last podcast where I made the comment of like, the developers can take care of them fucking selves. If they can't, that's their own fault. It's not my responsibility as a consumer to worry about the welfare of the developer.
That's what I said.
They should handle their own fucking business. It's my responsibility as a consumer to find the best value for me personally, something that I find valuable for the price that I find acceptable. That's it. And if I have personal scruples with a company, the way they do business, for some reason or another, that is also something I can take into account. You know, that's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. I don't have to have a good reason to buy or not buy something. That's one of the great things about being a consumer. I can choose not to buy your fucking game because I don't like the way the sun rose this morning. And you got to deal with it. That's part of the world that we live in. Something I heard earlier today as a rant about how how consumers should learn more about how games are developed, or I should say gamers should learn more about how games are developed, because there's so much hate and vitriol out there on the internet, and learning how games are developed would help the populace, the internet mob out there, empathize better with developers. And I'm like, the reason the disconnect exists between consumers, developers, publishers is because publishers have insulated themselves from consumer feedback and supplanted that feedback with more and more marketing, propaganda, advertisements that are designed to manipulate consumers into buying the product, instead of listening to feedback and giving consumers the product they want. So it's not the responsibility of the internet mob, which granted can be very vitriolic, but I guarantee you at some level or another you can trace that vitriol back to a breakdown in communication caused by the business.
I just think it's people fanboying.
Yep.
You can
I
trace
really
that
do.
back to a marketing technique, which is nah, 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 nah.
Yeah, that's
no. It works. I do it on Twitter. In fact, I did it yesterday on Twitter. I put out Tomb Raider is better than Uncharted. My opinions are facts.
And then
all the Sony drones are pissed. They're still messaging me about it. And I was like, no, my opinions are facts. My opinions are facts. Right?
You know what? The Tomb Raider died back in the 90s.
I prefer the reboot. And
Actually, the reboot-
I mean, the Tomb Raider, Lara Croft died in the 4th game. That was the end. That was the last game I played in that series. It's like, all right, story's over. I'm done with this.
Yeah,
Good for me.
I do admit I'm only a little bit into the second Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Rise of the Tomb Raider?
Yeah,
Rise is most people agree that Rise is the best of the 3, but I really like Shadow. A lot of people didn't like Shadow. I really like Shadow.
So I liked the first reboot game pretty well. I beat that one way back when. I'm only a little bit into the Rise one. It's squeezed in between Total War and fucking Elite Dangerous. Good luck.
How the fuck you mean that shit? I mean,
in the case,
just Elite in itself has taken away my Warframe time.
Right?
Good.
You said you had 90
Warframe.
I'm at 141 on there.
How long have you had it?
Not as long as you.
Fucking hell. Yeah,
I bought it like a week
He ain't
later.
washing his ass. He ain't eating right. He don't go to the gym no more. His wife ain't seen him in 3 days.
A lot of it is when in transit, I walk away and do shit.
Yep.
Crank the volume up so I can hear when I'm crashing into the station if I do that cruise assist. There's been I was watching something in the living room like, what the fuck is that noise? Like, that doesn't sound good. I'm in like 20% haul. I was glad it was good thing it was at Ray Gateway, because if it was anywhere else, I would have been shot down already. But it was at home station, so they didn't shoot me down. I was just killing myself on the Ray Gateway. That huge scratch in the middle of the station. Yeah, that was my tiny ass craft just fucking, full thrust right into the side of it for like 2 minutes.
Don't feel bad. My son came to me and said, "You're playing Three Kingdoms again? How many Chinamen are you gonna kill? That's all you ever do now."
I've done I want to say in Total War Warhammer, I have literally done, I want to say 15 campaigns on that one, and I have 3 simultaneously running campaigns right now.
Well, see, I don't do that. I'm doing my Kong wrong right now. I was playing Xinjiang. It's supposed to be the hardest campaign in the game. And when the Blood DLC came out, it corrupted my save.
Well,
I love her. Her campaign starts off hard as fuck, but she's by far my favorite.
Well, the difficulties on those is usually starting difficulty. That's what I noticed when they say this campaign's
the first
hard.
third of the game. It didn't ease up till I hit mid game. Hers in particular, and everybody said it. Hers is the hardest campaign.
But now they have mod support out, so now I might look at it here in another month or 2.
Oh, what mods for Warhammer 2? Or no, Warhammer 3 Kingdoms?
For 3 Kingdoms. I don't touch Warhammer games until mods come out.
The mod collection isn't great.
It'll get better. Give it time. In any case, let's divert it back to the actual news stories.
We love Total War.
Hey, you guys fought for this news story, so we're gonna talk about this news story. So
Did we
AMD,
really fight?
you guys fought.
Argued on behalf.
You hard won the right for this story to be on the podcast.
We just did what you wanted us to do.
Exactly.
You told us to do critical thinking, and they did.
Yep, absolutely. That's why
said
we're
they
talking
for
about
a reason.
it. Kev still hasn't justified anything, but whatever. He let Rose do all
It's
the
I
work.
just want to praise Lisa Sue over and over again.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Kev hasn't done any critical thinking. Rose has. So I just want to throw that out there. Anyway, so AMD cut the price of their Navi GPUs, and I think that they haven't launched yet. I think they launch Monday, isn't it?
No, they launched
I
last
thought
week.
they launched.
They've been out for a
Yeah.
week.
I thought they launched on the 7th.
What day is today?
The 13th.
The Radeon 7 came out on the 7th, didn't it? I don't know. But there's so many fucking 7s going on with AMD right now.
Just be happy they're not all 6s. The religious
Yeah, they hit the fucking jackpot on that one-armed bandit right there. All 7s, man. 777. Ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding.
So in
They're
any
just
case,
trying to reenact the Dreamcast.
So because I spent almost the first hour of the podcast talking about the G2A news story, I'm going to let Rose and Kev handle most of the heavy lifting, since they did want to talk about this story. So Rose, what did AMD do? What did AMD do, and why is it important?
So AMD cut prices on their Navi in order to compete better with NVIDIA. We saw NVIDIA announce, and I think they've released at this point, the Super Series of the 20 series.
The
Except for
2060 and 2070 Super are out. They put
Okay,
them
so
out there
2080.
deliberately to try to fuck AMD.
It's the NVIDIA Dragon Ball Super.
So this was a direct response to them, and this was actually announced before AMD launched their cards. Well, from there they dropped it, I think $50 across the board. Yeah. Except for the
5700 was only 40.
Yeah.
No, that's 50, I think. I can't math.
30.
So, yeah.
That's 30 more. Come on now. $50
Okay,
for
we can't all
the
be good at math.
$100 drop? What? Wow, that's an insane deal.
They're all free
I
on
got on my
G2A.
970.
That $1,000 off means they're paying me to get those card. I'll take that.
You said they're all free on
I'll take
G2A? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. You heard right.
$1 million. Oh, sorry.
So what we've seen is that this is a better price point compared to the Supers and the original 20 series. This is great for competition because, I mean, now we've got a decent price point. We aren't dealing with the fucking miners right now. We aren't dealing with idiots who just want to buy 50 of these to resell. We've got decent competition, and that's good for all of us if you're building a system.
I'm going to disagree with you on the fact that it's a good pricing. We're still paying $400 for a 60 series card, which are traditionally $200 to $250.
Not anymore.
300
Oh yeah,
tops.
you're right. The Super is $400, but the original 2060
Right,
is
a
$350.
400 is like we're pushing on, like, keep in mind the 980 was like $450. And now we're paying that much for 60 cards. And the reason they're doing this is because they want to charge, because they want to justify having a $1,000 card. Is the same reason they literally have what would normally be 50 series cards in the 1660 and 1660 Ti, which are like $200 and $250, because they don't want to say, hey, these are 50 cards. When realistically, there aren't no actual 20 or 2050s out there. And 2050 Ti, there's a reason. And then, they're like, NVIDIA clearly did this to just fuck AMD.
By the way, I just want to throw it out there. The launch price for the GTX 960, you know how much it was?
It was right around 200.
It's $200, yeah. So so
was the 760. 760 was right around there too.
Yeah, about $200.
My 970 the 970 was $300 at launch. That's why people loved it so much.
Yeah,
and I got mine for $200 because the girl at AMD don't know how to price, or not AMD, at Best Buy don't know how to price check.
Well, and the thing is that the
shout out to Amazon.
I got the 650 Ti Boost, which was like a Frankenstein between the 650 and the 660. And if I remember correctly, that guy actually he ended up being like 180, I think it was. And at the time the 660 was like 210, 220. And it's like, and that was for, aftermarket cards. That's not the MSRP of it. But yeah, to think of that, the 2060 is $400. And it's like, what?
Right, that's ridiculous.
That's insane to me. I didn't realize it was that inflated.
Didn't the 1060 launch near 300? The 1060?
And I mean, the 1060 was around 300 too, and I thought that was a bit high too. Like, and maybe it's just me. I really think the sweet spot for pricing was right around the 900 series. And I've even seen a lot of people say even the 900 series is expensive.
The 1060's launch price was $250, which I think that's fair enough. That's
close enough.
The problem at the time was the miners. The miners bought up all the cards, and
they didn't buy them at launch though, because me and Mort caught our 1080s like 2 months before the miners got in.
Yeah, exactly.
And we paid regular prices.
And the 1080, if I remember right, the 1080 was, I think, the first one that got released. But whatever the case is, this is a fascinating. I just want not to go too deep into the economics of it. It's fascinating, this bounce back effect. That without looking at previous gen cards, if you track the, at one point in time the 1060s were like $800 during the mining boom. Well, 400's so much cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's how people are justifying it.
That's how people are justifying it. But I think what NVIDIA is doing is they were trying to close the gap between tiers on the upper end. Because if you notice what was like the upper end, like the difference between a 980 versus a 980 Ti versus a Titan, there was a growing gap as you got higher on the cards with less of a performance benefit.
Yeah,
from one to the next.
Right. You're right.
Because it was like you got $50 gap, then a $100 gap, then a $200. Yeah, but it was like from tier to tier, you had a $50 gap, then $100 gap, then a $200 gap as it went up.
And I don't think there was much reason for that.
Amounts, but
see, I think that, but then at the same time, NVIDIA is also known to gimp themselves, like the 1070 Ti, which really had no business being out. It was literally like jump between the 1070 and the 1080. We're talking maybe 10 frames a second. And then they decided to throw a card right in the middle of there because AMD released when Vega came out, because it was
Vega 56 had better performance than the 1070 for the same price.
Exactly, and they didn't like that, so they said, "Hey, we're going to give you this 1070 Ti, undercut it," and they essentially killed off the 1080.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't want to say it. So like the 1080 is still faster, but it's cheap enough. I think it was like $100 less. So I was like, why buy a 1080?
They also, worse yet, they killed off their 1070 even harder.
Yeah, with the 1070 Ti, which was just better in all regards, and it was like $50 more or something like that.
Yeah, it was like $50 more, and it was like still $100 less than like a 1080. I mean, they did it just as a big middle finger to NVIDIA or AMD, and NVIDIA has a history of doing that. Where AMD can't come out with something good. Oh no.
There's this left-hand, right-hand issue with NVIDIA because they talk about not wanting to have their TI cards out. They want to have the clear cut between the tiers instead of having this half-ass middle ground shit coming out with slightly reduced power of another card or some other crap like that. And NVIDIA is,
TI cards.
But here's the thing: our AMD is running shit that their own tier system, which is not a perfect alignment with NVIDIA. They don't have a perfect line-to-line competition. They have a different offset, and NVIDIA is trying to compete with that offset. And like, what the fuck are you doing? Come on, man. Compete with AMD, yes, but you don't need to slow down your footing in the race to compete with them. Run the race at your pace.
Right. It's like, and on top of that, it's like, let's be real. NVIDIA owns the market. Let's just be real about that for a second.
Yeah.
NVIDIA has like 85% of the market. And there are people out there that at this point, when you hear and you hear this a lot of times, at least I hear from people a lot of people that are looking to come over from console to PC, and they ask me, hey, what's better, AMD or NVIDIA? And they're really looking for clear-cut answers. When the truth is, it depends on what you're buying. Like if you're looking to go like the ultra high end, get NVIDIA. NVIDIA ultra high end, AMD does not compete. However, if you have a budget, if you're looking to get something maybe a little lower end, or something that's a little more reasonably priced, maybe a little more console price, go AMD most of the time. If you're spending, I would say under $400, excuse me, just go AMD. You're gonna get better bang for your buck under $400.
Well, now we're also seeing a little bit. Yeah, but now we've also got NVIDIA actually doing the ray tracing and a bunch of other features where AMD's completely dropped that.
It's been out for a year and it's in like 2 games.
Yeah,
but now that NVIDIA's got cards for it and the performance should be there, I think we might see it in more.
So just to throw out
but the way we're getting the performance is really messy. DLS, like you're getting ray tracing at 1080p, and then they'll throw on DLSS, which is blurry as hell.
So just to throw out the Steam hardware survey on here, if we look at the top cards, 1060, 1050 Ti, like of the top 10 cards, all of them are NVIDIA, and then you've got one AMD, the 580, and then you've got like more NVIDIA cards. Intel graphics is in there. HD graphics.
Intel integrated graphics has a bigger foothold in the PC gaming market than most AMD graphics cards. That says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot, because if you notice on here, we've got 2 AMD cards in the top, I'd say 20 or so. And then we've got 3 different Intel integrated options in the top 20.
That's not just Intel HD graphics. That's 4th gen, Intel. That's the integrated graphics I have on my i7.
Yeah, like that should tell you.
That's for what 5-year-old shit.
Yeah, that should say a lot about how hard AMD is struggling to get a foothold in the market with NVIDIA's dominance.
The old S750 Ti, if you look at this chart here, it's stomping the hell out of a 580. And you can get them both for, well, no, because the 750 Ti you can probably get for like $60 now used.
Yes, you can.
But the 580 is still a beast. My kids play on that thing. That's a dope ass graphics card that you can get now for like $140, $150 if you look around. It's a really good GPU.
Not really seeing a whole lot of the 2000 series. It's still mostly the 10,000s.
Well, yeah, you're gonna see that.
You see the well. The thing is that no one's fucking buying the 20 series because they're so goddamn overpriced.
Exactly. They're overpriced and the performance isn't there.
When you saw the 970 get released, the 970 took over the fucking market overnight because it was so inexpensive for the quality it provided. People were on
the 970 was a 680.
The exact same thing. The 1060 was a beast too.
Yeah, and that's why the 1060 is still on top.
Or 660.
Right. The 1060 is a great graphics card. It was just expensive.
It was $250. Now you get your aftermarket cards. Maybe they go up to $300.
It was more than I wanted to pay for it. I'd want to keep it right around $250 for a 60 series card, and that's why I'm so irritated when you see a 2060 for $400. That to me says NVIDIA is not interested in competition.
Yeah,
they really just want to gouge and bleed your wallets. Intel's kind of up there too. Like I've made the joke on Twitter before. Intel, Epic, and NVIDIA are just running around like they own the goddamn place.
Well, Intel, I think the thing is Intel. I think they got complacent when they started looking like we're having trouble getting this nanometer shrink. And they were like, well, we don't really need it. We're still dominating. And then AMD came the fuck out of nowhere, and Intel's scrambling, and they still don't have die shrink going on yet.
Well, I think so they're further than that. Like Intel, they got comfortable because AMD wasn't competitive for the better part of a decade. And then Ryzen came out of nowhere, like, oh my God, this is great. But Intel's still faster. Right? That's first generation Ryzen.
They're struggling for that advertising.
We're at a point now where we're arguing now over 5 frames a second. Well, do you really want to pay an extra $200 for that extra 5 frames a second? Most people are going to say no. They'll just buy the cheaper Ryzen that's about the same.
Well, now they're focusing on trying to dominate the server market, and that will be pretty insane too.
Oh, I think AMD's going to get a good stronghold in the server market too, because businesses don't care. They want what's cheapest. What's cheapest, what's most efficient, what's most affordable. Like
I think they were trying to do that with their graphics, is come out with an innovative change that was going to, rock NVIDIA. But NVIDIA is, yes, they're dominating, but they're not completely complacent. They're doing a little bit more aggressive marketing than Intel has been. So they're actually, even though they know they're on top, they're still trying to hold it, as opposed to like, yeah, I'm good, I can just sit here. And AMD has been struggling with that, and they haven't come up with that innovative. They haven't come up with that cheaply innovative shift that in their favor. They've had some innovation here and there. Like when they first started with HBM, that was a great idea, and they made a huge improvement on it with Vega. It wasn't enough. It was too expensive. For the performance gain out of it, it just did not work well for them.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk for a moment how neither of these companies are AMD's innovating a bit more on the CPU side, but on the GPU side, you're not really seeing a whole lot of innovation.
AMD is very much still playing catch up on the GPU side.
Yeah.
Well, they take an architecture standard and they run it for way too long. They did that with the Bulldozer on their old CPUs until they finally got Zen out. And they were doing that for GCN on their GPUs until they're finally getting the Navi out, which we'll see how well that plays for them. Hopefully, for them, they're hoping it is enough of a paradigm shift as Zen was for their CPU side.
It won't be, not the first gen. Navi's not there. What I feel like, in particular, what AMD really needs to do, because we're at a point now where people say AMD flat out is not competitive. Now, like I said before, they have GPUs that are about the same as NVIDIA until you get to like that 80 Ti series. They're not really competing at the 80 Ti level. Or even the 80 level, they're not really that competitive. But in the mid-tier, on the low end, AMD is incredible.
Their top tier card is the 5700 XT, and that is equivalent to a 2070. Their top card, I think,
is still Radeon 7. Radeon 7 is still faster.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just on the
Radeon 7's faster, and that is on par with the 2080. And that's the thing, is like their top end competition. The 2080 Ti is, yes, faster, but you look, the Radeon 7 is competing with a 2080.
But the problem is
that's not bad. It's not great either.
It's not bad, but public perception is you need to keep up with the 2080 Ti or whatever that 80 Ti Titan card is. You need to be there or better before people are going to see they're even competitive or even worthwhile. And people are saying this, people who have no intentions on even buying a card at that level. Like I have these arguments with people all the time. I'm like, you're out here looking for a $200 GPU, saying AMD is buying $200 GPUs and then saying AMD isn't competitive. That doesn't even make sense. Because they both have cards that are about the same at that price level.
Marketing perception.
In your market.
Well, the thing is something I hear nobody talking about, to be frankly honest, is what are those cards for AMD? I hear here talking about 5700, 5700 XT that are the $300, $400, $500 cards. What are their $200 offerings?
Let's take a look at it, because for a while it was the RX 580.
No,
that was the card, but I think they're coming down in price.
It is still RX series. Their latest and greatest. They do not have the lower tiers out yet.
Right, and the RX 580 right now, I see them. Yeah, I see one at 184. I saw one a while ago. That's the cheapest one I'm seeing on Amazon is 184. I just pulled it up
for a moment. So something that's really frustrating to me, as much as NVIDIA annoys me with the TI moniker, which to me is just obnoxious. You should get rid of those, all the TIs, and just have straight numbers all the way through. But even with them, you have a much more cohesive lineup to understand, and you can just understand TI is a slightly better version of the number that's before it. Whereas with AMD, you've got the RX 580 on the low end, then you have the middle range that's RX 5700 and 5700 XT, and then on the high end you've got Radeon 7, and I think you've got a Radeon 5 in there somewhere too.
The 580 isn't even like their low end card. It's like the equivalent. It was meant to be the equivalent of a 970, but they have cards below that too.
But my point is that they have this broken up nomenclature that really confuses
the nomenclature
people.
Is all fucked.
Yeah, like it confuses
they ran
people.
into is two different structurings, also spanning two different generations. So they've got their standard GPU construction with GDDR memory, and that is crossing two generations from the RX 580 to the RX 5700. Those are two different generations of cards. You got Polaris to Navi. Plus, they have the Vega standard in there thrown outside the set that is also crossing generations between the Vega 64 and the Radeon 7. Using its own special memory type. So they've got the Vega series too, because that's a generation cross as well. So they're crossing generations and crossing different construction types. And that's what's confusing the fuck out of people.
My thing is that their names keep changing so drastically that it's, and you also had the Fury before that. So it went Fury to Vega to Radeon, and it's like, what does that mean to me as a consumer? I have no fucking clue. What's the better card? What's worth buying? What's too old to buy? Should I buy a Fury? Should I buy a Vega? Should I buy a Radeon? Should I buy an RX card? Like, I have no fucking clue what you are doing, AMD.
Very true. That's actually something I never considered, because now you look at it like, we're kind of the hardcore. We're the people that are going to follow this. Most people I want to play fucking video games, and I want something that's gonna work well for me. I know that NVIDIA. This is the 2060. The newest series is the 2000 series. So the old series is 1000. That's easy. They changed the G to an R. Because of its ray tracing. That's cool. That makes sense. I'm gonna get the newest NVIDIA card that's in my price range. I don't know what the fuck is going on AMD's name.
The thing is,
all over the damn place.
The thing is that whenever I don't even pay attention to GTX. Like, when I just think about just looking at stuff online, looking at GPUs, GTX, RTX, I don't even know what the fuck. I'm not even paying attention to that. Like, I'm numb to that. I see the number, right? And while it kind of tweaks my OCD a little bit that they went from 1000 to 2000 instead of 1100, 1200, and so on.
I thought that was all fucking rumors, man. And I was like, no way, they're not going to do that.
1000 to 2000 makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does.
What threw me off was going from 700 to 900.
That was annoying. That was annoying, especially the fact that they had. Well, they did have 800 series on mobile.
Yeah.
So they had
even more confusing.
They had the 860
because they had the 900 series on mobile.
870.
They weren't even mobile cards. They that was when they started putting full on GPUs and.
What's even funnier, Kev, is that 700 series that in there. Only half of that, or not even half. Two cards were a new generation. The 770 was a 660 Ti. It is an exact it's not even clocked higher.
Refresh. Wasn't the 700 just a refresh of the
700 series introduced Maxwell only in the 750 and the 750 Ti. Everything else was a higher tier of the previous generation. So the 660 Ti became the 760. The 680 became the 770. Everybody was like, all of the 770 is great. It was a 680.
Yeah,
same power.
Like a refresh
rates everything.
Yeah, but the thing is as critical as you could be over that, from us as a techie perspective, from the average consumer, that was the better choice for NVIDIA, because rather than do what AMD does, where you have 16 different fucking product names and nobody knows what they are, they just see 7 series. Okay, this is the newest available. Oh, I want the middle grade one. Oh, the 760. Okay, I'm going to get 760.
Exactly. I have $300 to spend. Here's the newest NVIDIA series. Buy the one that's $300.
Yeah, and they don't know what chip is used in what one. They're not paying that.
And they don't give a shit, and they shouldn't.
No.
Exactly.
You're a great example of you are a great example of this problem, and here's why. You are more technically literate than a majority of the consumers, gaming consumers out there. And this is the second time I've heard you say, "Oh, I forgot that the Vega 64 was a 1080 competitor."
Yeah. The thing is, that's not just me.
If you're losing that, the average consumer is completely gone on it.
I know exactly. Yeah. That's the point I was making, is that nobody has a fucking clue. They don't even know where the Vega 64 fits. Most people don't even know what the Radeon 7 fits. Like, they don't know these exist. That's the problem. Yeah. It's like,
and that's why NVIDIA that's why it annoys me. It's like NVIDIA then comes out with these supercards. These supercards were unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's like, because nobody's going to buy NVIDIA while they're confusing anyway.
If you guys remember in the Discord server, whenever I got that email from NVIDIA saying, "Oh, the Super Series," and I just posted that up in Discord, and I was like, for fuck's sake, NVIDIA.
You did.
I had nothing positive to say about it.
It's kind of funny when we talk about AMD's naming scheme, because the most intelligent thing AMD has done in years was copy Intel's naming scheme on Ryzen. Now we know Ryzen 3, that's comparable to an i3. Yes. They're about the same price, but hey, this one's a little faster.
Yep.
I'm not
the
saying
Ryzen
that they need
R3,
to go back
R5, and
R7.
R7.
Oh yeah, AMD GTX or whatever. They should have stuck with RX.
Yeah.
They should have okay, now this is the RX 600 series.
Yeah, the thing is,
these are the newest ones. That makes sense, and that won't confuse people.
And that's what they're kind of doing.
And release all your cards at once, or at least at like the same general time.
Well, the thing is that so they have RX seems to be a certain nameology, but they have the Vega. Now, what's the full name of the Radeon 7? Does it have anything?
It's just Radeon 7.
It is AMD Radeon 7. That's it.
Yeah. So this guy is the Radeon RX 5700. The 590 or 580 is the Radeon RX 580, right? So they have Radeon still in the name. Personally, why do you still have Radeon's name in there? You done killed Radeon years ago. ATI Radeon.
Here's the thing:
I'm okay with Radeon being part of the name. That's fine.
That 1080 in your computer is a GeForce GTX 1080.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, fair enough. So
people forget about that one too.
Yeah, that's because there is the different lines. There is the business and the different lines of cards. Like I can't remember what AMD's versions are. I think they have like Fire Pro,
and there's Fire Pro, and then there's another one. I can't remember what it is. That's equivalent to a Tesla.
But the thing is, the interesting thing about it is, if I remember, I can't remember if I have. Their nameology doesn't just hit the consumer world. My server, I'm pretty certain, has a Radeon WX card, if I remember right, in it, which was like I don't know what card this is. Like,
their
enterprise graphics cards are similarly retarded in how they design their schemes. Whereas NVIDIA has always been very consistent.
Yeah, their Fire Pro name was a lot more consistent, and then again, AMD's nameology used to be more consistent. It's recent, both enterprise and consumer is all just been all sorts of fucked.
Yeah. I don't want to jump to any suppositions, but I wonder if there's been some internal leadership changes, like frequently trying to get things to stick properly, so you shift people around, and when you shift people around, that's
actually
when the nameology
in AMD's line there was in the GPU sector there was a leadership change that happened right before Vega came out, and then right before Polaris came out. There's a CEO that took over for a while, fucked up some names, and then got the fuck out. He wasn't even in on the actual R&D of any of this shit. But I think he was there to fuck up the names. I think that's a lot of where that came from.
Hey, you are here to just fuck up names, okay? I mean, we already have a long lineage of fucking up names.
I'm here to fuck up names and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Come on now, they got to be here to fluff like everyone else.
Oh my!
I had to
God! How did I do that?
Oh my!
Somebody call HR.
I would like to apologize to everybody who happens to hear this for Kev. He's only allowed to talk to public facing outsources once per week, so it's We're working with them, okay?
I have social issues.
So, at the same time, I like the fact that the AMD is trying to be competitive. They're undercutting Nvidia's prices for at least somewhat comparable cards, which is nice. I don't think this is going to do a damn bit of anything because, to be honest with you, had you guys not brought up the story to me, I would have never known. Like that's how low AMD's profile is. Nobody's fucking talking about this, which is that's in and of itself that says a lot. You know, like they're and the thing is I want people to compete with Nvidia. I really wish the AMD would be more fucking aggressive because $50 cheaper,
especially from the GPU side.
Yeah, no, like this $50 cheaper thing, that's not enough. Bring me an RTX RX 5700 for $250. $200. Somewhere around there.
Actually, I mentioned the good old gamer last time we were here. But he actually said the same thing about Navi. Right when they did that price cut. Because he wasn't sure if that was going to be enough. And he was they break it off $100. Say, hey, you can get about the same performance. You know, you're using 2-3 frames a second. Nobody gives a shit about 5 frames a second, whatever. But you're paying $100 less.
See, here's the thing.
The same performance.
Here's the thing: is that
people are going to like, oh, I'll just pocket that money. I could put that towards some RGB or something.
The thing is they're not actually undercutting technically anything because. And here's the thing: this is the way the consumer thinks, and. You ever wonder, and most of us know by now, the reason why things are priced at 99 instead of a whole number is because it's a psychological fucking trick. Because when people read this, they see the 3. They see $399. Yeah. Oh, that's $300. No, it's not. It's $400. There's a big difference there. But whenever you're selling me something for $349, 3 is what I see. When you sell me something for $399, 3 is what I see. Therefore, charging $50 less, the consumer that's just skimming over that sees no value difference. Yep, it's the same price.
Drop it by $100, it makes a difference though.
Now, yeah, you go down to $299, $249, then you start seeing people say, "Oh, this is a better deal," because that first integer is where it's at. And that's I am very confident that this 5700 is not going to catch on, and I hate that because I want someone to step up and actually give some fucking competition in Nvidia because I'm tired of their bullshit. This whole thing, they've doubled the price of their mid-grade card from a few years ago, $200 to $400. That is massive. That is fucking, that is a doubling in price. That's not, if we're talking the fucking Titan or the 1080 Ti or 2080 Ti or whatever, $200 may seem like chump change when you're already spending $700-800. And not really. It's still a nominal increase, but it seems a lot less. But when you go from
your butt hurts a little less afterwards.
Yeah, if you're buying a card at that grade, you generally have the expendable income to afford a little extra. That's the reason. Whenever Xaiphen was talking about kind of closing the gap in between those grades, it actually made a lot of economical sense to have your cheaper cards be more tightly packed together, and then as they went up, they spaced out more, because the people that are paying those higher dollar amounts, they are more willing to make those jumps, right? You get the 1080 Ti, right? Is what was it? It was like $100 extra, but then let's go back. The 980 Ti and the Titan, right? There was a $200 and then a $400 jump, if I remember correctly, was the way it was spaced out.
Yeah.
The people that were going to the 980 Ti, right? They could afford that $200 jump. The people that wanted that Titan, or sometimes multiple Titans, they could afford that $400 jump from there.
Usually when they were going into that, it wasn't even like, oh, I have the extra budget for this. Is they didn't have to worry about a budget at all.
Exactly.
So it's just like, how much performance can I get? Not how much can I get for the dollar value. How much can I get straight out?
Yeah, and
right.
The thing is,
and when you talk to those kinds of people, that's exactly what they say. They want the fastest card, period. value isn't as much a thing. And then they just want the fastest one. Hell, I was tweeting the other day. I really want better 4K performance. I was thinking about a 2080 Ti. I don't want to pay 2080 Ti money. Hell, I'm looking at Radeon 7 benchmarks right now because I don't want to pay 2080 Ti money.
Yes.
But I want that performance. If I want that performance, realistically, I got to look at a 2080 Ti or keep playing in a mix of medium and high settings of 4K on newer games. And until AMD gives something that I was really hoping Navi was going to be that card, and it's not.
No.
Radeon
maybe
7.
If there's a higher end Navi, we'll see if they're starting out with the new higher price mid tier. If that's what this is,
AMD has already stated that their eye on the prize is the mainstream $200 to $400 market.
Yeah.
That's why Radeon 7 costs so much. But with Radeon 7, it plays 4K pretty well at high settings for right now. It came out in February. And it's on par with the 1080 or 1080 Ti, excuse me. But it's like
or 2080.
I can just buy a used 1080 Ti for even less than what I paid for a Radeon 7.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. So like at that point, if I really want that performance, and I'm already kind of willing to spend a little bit.
But
why wouldn't I just get the 2080
my
Ti?
thing is though is that as far as the mass market goes, and I agree with Lapisulia in the chat that said Nvidia is going to price themselves out. Yeah. The problem is that by more evenly spreading out their markets, this is the reason why, like I said, with the 9 series, you had the overwhelming majority of people had a 970. Now, the majority, a smaller majority, mind you, it was like 30 or 40% of the graphics cards on the Steam survey were 970s during that generation. Now,
I was one of them.
Yeah, now we are in the 20 series generation, right? And the top card is still the 1060 with only 15%. And you see in the top like 20 cards when we were going through that list, only 1 or 2 of them were 20 series cards. You're not seeing a whole lot.
You gotta go down a little while, and
people aren't
you
buying.
You gotta go down a little while,
series.
and even then, I think the closest one up there is like the 2080 or 2080 Ti.
Yeah.
Because the people that are buying this series, again, and I don't think they're buying it for ray tracing.
No, like they're just buying it. They're just buying it because they want the best.
I believe they're buying it because they want the fastest one. Like I'm looking back at the chart now. Well, 2060 is actually pretty up there now.
Yeah.
The 2070 is up there.
But it's in like the top 15 or something like that. My point is that
no, it's like 13.
Yeah.
2070
top 15, like I said. My point is that whereas in the 9th generation or not 9th generation, the 900 series of NVIDIA graphics cards, you saw a lot of 9 series that were up there during the heyday of that series. And the overwhelming majority was that 970 card because it offered a great value for its price. Then the 960 was below it, and you had 980, and all of those guys were stacked up in there, right? And now, and actually you had a lot more AMD cards up there at the time as well. Now, you don't see that. People aren't buying the 2000 series NVIDIA cards because they're too overpriced. People are sticking with their 10 series.
Yeah.
I sure as hell am not going to fucking touch a 2080 or 2080 Ti. Why would I bother? I've got a 1080. I've got all I need. There's no cost benefit to me as a consumer to buy that shit.
I'm going to disagree with you because of the reasoning I gave before.
What, the ray tracing that no one's using?
No. I want the better 4K performance. So it's going to go from person to person because I want that 4K. The reason I've upgraded from time to time was always because I wanted that 4K performance. That's like the only reason I see to get a 2080 Ti. It sure as hell ain't ray tracing.
So
ray tracing ain't there yet.
You want to know the cheat code on that, Kev? On a 27-inch monitor, 4K is near indistinguishable from 1440p. Guess what I run my 4K monitor at? Yeah, oh no, I 100% checked that out.
So have I. Remember, I have a 1440p and 4K 27-inch monitor sitting right next to each other. I can clearly see the difference.
No, well, that's because the scaling's probably different on them. But when you actually look at the crispness of the lines, if you set them both sides, I launched up a game, at 4K. Well, because I was having that problem for a while where the NVIDIA GeForce Experience kept defaulting my fucking resolution to 4K. It was annoying the shit out of me. But I would launch up a game in 4K and I'd be like, oh, the UI elements look smaller. That was the difference.
UI, you don't have UI scaling. That's like the only time I play at 1440p. Otherwise, if I can get away with it, I'm shooting to 4K. And like, I really like playing at 4K. I see the difference. On both the monitors. Like, I really prefer 4K, but the performance isn't there. At least not on the at least not the way I want it to be. Like, I can get 60 frames a second at 4K on my 1080. As long as I'm willing to make some sacrifices. Most of the sacrifices ain't that big a deal. But
for me, the only reason I'd be ended up buying a 4K monitor is that it ends up being a cheaper deal than an equivalent 1440 monitor, which does happen.
Yeah, like my 4K monitor was $300. So it wasn't terrible. I bought it because I wanted to.
I'd still run it at 1440 though.
I would personally prefer a 1440p 144 hertz monitor, especially if it was curved. Just throwing that out there.
Well,
I
think ultra wide because
ultra wide.
We've talked about my vision, how my vision's skewed. Because my vision is skewed on the left side, the curve won't do anything for me.
Yeah, but for me,
I won't see it.
For me, right now, with the technology I have available to me, an ideal monitor would be a 3440 by 1440 ultra wide curved monitor that runs at 144 hertz. Just saying, anybody wants to donate, like $600 for.
Here's the thing: is like, no. If you want the 144 hertz of that, you're looking at $1,500. Anything less than 1,000 is only 100 hertz.
That hurts.
My
that hurts my soul.
Display is 144 hertz.
That hurts my soul.
But here's the thing: is
ultra wide curve. Those are the two.
1080,
ultra wide curved. Okay.
Yeah.
Your 1080 and an ultra wide 1440 is only going to push about 100 frames on gaming average for that resolution. I looked at mine. Mine tops out at about 90.
I'll probably have to look at also adding in G-Sync just to get another $200 on that price tag.
Go FreeSync. Use FreeSync.
Get a FreeSync G-Sync or G-Sync supported.
My 4K is a FreeSync display. My 1440 is a G-Sync display. I can't discern the difference.
Good to know. Anyway, sorry, Andy, but you're probably not gonna fail with these prices. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to.
I'm glad. I hope the Ryzen 3000 does well, and I think it will.
Yeah, I think they'll do better.
It's already showing pretty well.
Yeah, it's showing really well in the enthusiast crowd. What I'm thinking about is where do you get the mainstream guys, especially like, I see it a lot more laptops are selling with the AMD stuff, and I'm starting to see more and hear more and more about people buying AMD laptops. I tend to buy my wife AMD laptops anyway. Just talking to general people, like I'm seeing less and less Intel laptops running on it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of the big barometer because your average everyday Joe who just wants a computer is probably going to buy a laptop. They're not going to go out and they're definitely not going to build a machine.
Yep.
No.
That's a little more of an enthusiast thing.
But yeah. Anyway, to segue into our last story of the evening, that we'll have to talk more briefly about it. I guess being longer for the season premiere is okay, but that was also Morty's fault for having to have an educational segment on G2A. Anyway. Moving on. So Steam has started. They've started a few initiatives to help with the discovery of their games, seemingly trying to address some of the criticism that they've been getting. So, by the way, first of all, they're trying something. So the people that are like, "Oh, Valve isn't doing anything," which justifies Epic, they are trying things. Whether or not it's the right thing, that's the question. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. So one of the biggest notable things that Steam is trying to do is these micro trailers, which essentially are, it shows you multiple at once 6-second trailers for multiple games. And
why is this a thing?
You know what? Here's the thing. I used to be a big fan of Vines. So this has potential if it has that level of editing behind it.
Yeah. So here's my thing. part of the problem that I fight against in consumer advocacy is the attention span of the modern day internet user. This is feeding into that sad, depressing attention span that Vine and now TikTok is largely taking the place of Vine in the sense of the short attention span, little short clip videos, which, yeah, it's definitely got an audience behind it. But the problem is that how much can you really relay why I should buy your game? How much can you really sell me in 6 seconds without being deceptive? Like,
I mean,
sure,
are you EA or Ubisoft?
Yeah, I mean, no. Let's just talk about Korean game makers. Which, let's be honest, what they'll do is they'll just have some anime chick with big tits just stand there for 6 seconds.
I was gonna say, boobs, thighs, butt. The whole eternity.
You can probably sell that to the furries too.
Yeah. I'm like, as far as attention span goes, Rose is playing Elite Dangerous right now.
Do you know how hard I've been trying not to play Total War? Total War's not on right now.
Not hard enough.
At some point, we'll get Kev onto Elite Dangerous. We'll lose him for a week, and then we'll play it on the stream, which will be the single most boring party stream you all have ever seen. Because that game is not a streamable game. I don't know how there's people streaming.
I've got ideas on that, though. And that would be us doing combat sites.
Before we get to that, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment and acknowledge Steam. I appreciate your effort. This shit ain't gonna work.
This ain't it, Chief. I'm thinking, like, let's remember, they canceled Steam machines and the Steam Link hardware. And they're doing shit like this.
But I will say,
the Steam Link hardware is great. In fact, I need to go set my Steam Link back up. The Steam Link hardware is great.
I'm an avid user. I have it set up in the bedroom. That's where I've been playing Tomb Raider. I'll plug Tomb Raider into the Steam Link and play it laying on my bed. I love the Steam Link. What I can say is one of the things that it actually did for them that's actually pretty damn good is the fact that it set them up to develop a streaming technology that actually got them in the market ahead of Stadia and xCloud. Think about this. Yeah. What is their main?
Steam in-home streaming was already a thing. Steam in-home streaming.
Yes, it was in-home streaming, but it required you to have 2 computers with Steam installed. The Steam Link beta is an application on Android and iOS where I can stream.
And it works pretty good.
And it actually works pretty damn good. I had set up my Steam controller over Bluetooth to my phone, and I was playing Warframe on my phone, which I'm like, okay, kudos.
I want to see if they can even take it a step further. I would love to stream my Steam games wherever I am.
Yeah, and that's I think the next step. Right now, it still requires the in-home streaming thing, but I think the next step for them logically is to leverage that as a cloud-based product. They have the foundation. That's what Steam Link, us buying those Steam Link products, guess what? We just helped them fund their development into a cloud streaming platform as I need my desk.
Mark kills the podcast, tripping over his computer.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and
happy anniversary, everyone. We're done.
Yeah, but no, that's we have legitimately helped them fund developing their own cloud streaming platform, and we didn't even realize it. That's what Steam Link is going to be. I'm calling it now, predicting it now. They're going to be a Stadia xCloud competitor, and it will probably be more successful because people will have already been using the Steam Link app to stream their games in-house.
Yep.
Now, here's my question, because you still use the box.
Yeah.
Are they still supporting doing updates for it, or is it just dead? That's the reason I haven't reconnected mine.
The Steam Link, like the TV box?
Yeah, I remember I bought the TV box.
They did. They didn't have updates for a long time, and then they did an update earlier this year, and I think that's supposed to be the last one for that. Or I may be misinformed on that. I kind of skimmed over that article.
And while it functionally works fine, I do have a minor concern about the security aspect of that. Obviously, if there's a security vulnerability, I would hope that they would patch it. but who knows? But in any case, yeah, I think we can summarily close the book on Steam, and yeah, good job, Steam. Nice try. Keep trying. A for effort, but it's not
just
gonna
because
work.
shit doesn't work doesn't mean you need to stop trying new shit.
Well, I mean that's the Steam box that did not work, but doesn't mean they shouldn't have tried.
Right. I like that. People say Steam isn't innovating, and they're saying Steam isn't innovating mostly because you don't see a lot of changes on Steam, or you don't, they're not doing a ton of hardware. But, and that's why I'm disappointed about the Steam Link hardware going away. I wish they would have, do what they're doing now with Android and iOS and all that. But I wish they would have kept the software too. Like, if I want to play this on my TV now, because I would love to play this on my TV. Now I can't do it without a Samsung TV. Yeah, and that disappoints me.
That is, and something else and I to address I don't know where it started, so I don't want to say it was Tim Sweeney and attribute it falsely, but it is in that epic narrative that you hear that Steam doesn't innovate. Yes, that is entirely a false claim. The accurate claim is Steam hasn't been innovating in the areas that those detractors want them to, which, to be fair, some of the areas that they want Steam to innovate is it helping in the discoverability of games. Some say that needs to be curation. I don't think that's necessary.
I don't think it needs to be curated, but I would love for them to.
No, the thing is that there is already... When you think about it, it's brilliant. They have curation on Steam. Nobody talks about this, but the curation on there is I choose who I want to be curating my games. Do I want Total Biscuit, rest in peace, the artist formerly known as Total Biscuit, to be curating my games? Do I want PCMR to be curating my games? I have a choice of what curators I want to present me with a selection of games that are curated based upon their personal tastes. Rather than having only GOG curating my selection, or only Epic Games, or only EA Origin, or only Ubisoft curating my selection, I can choose what curators I want. Nobody talks about that, which is kind of interesting to me. But the discoverability is still a factor, because as I found, the filters and the tags are garbage, and that really needs to be addressed. We've gone back and forth on that multiple times, I think, by now. Rose, though, was talking about something, and at this point I lost and forgotten what it was.
Elite Dangerous?
Yes, ideas on Elite Dangerous. Let's wrap that into the final thoughts.
Well, I was thinking that we would do combat missions instead of just hauling shit. Because if we haul shit, that's going to be tedious as fuck. We might as well turn it into a mini podcast because of how tedious it's going to be.
We'll just chat about gaming news while we're flying. Let's make
we're mining, it's going to be the same problem.
No, what we should do is we should make a wing trek to Sagittarius A-Star, Sag A-Star, and just do the podcast while we're jumping to the next star.
I watch streaming services while I'm running Elite Dangerous. I'd say 25% of my
that to me just says that game is boring as shit.
It's the travel time.
Well, the thing is it's a space sim, Kev. It's just like a flight sim. They're not, those games typically aren't exactly based on their like, you have a game that's like very narrative driven, right? Keeps you in line with a story, whereas simulation games tend to be not based on a story. It tends to be like you have like your Sim City, right? Or City Skylines, right? Those games technically are pretty fucking boring because you're just sitting there watching things happen, and you occasionally make a little change or you build out some roads. It's a similar thing when you deal with simulation games. They tend to be, in essence, rather boring. What's the word?
I think Rose has a great idea, though. We need to be the Pixel Crashers Pirates.
Well, remember, I talked about us starting a curation group. I think we should do it.
What you heard it here first. We're going to start pirating. Elite
See, I
Dangerous.
wasn't talking about curating piracy. Unless the games are on Epic. If the games are on Epic, go for it.
Disclaimer for anybody confused, Xaiphen was not referring to actual game piracy. The Pixel Crashers does not endorse or in any way suggest people do anything that could be potentially illegal, unless, of course, you're pirating Fortnite. If you can find a way to pirate Fortnite, please do that.
What about Epic Games exclusives?
Any Epic games. Yes.
Any games exclusive
No,
on
actually, I
Epic?
take that back. Buy Fortnite. Pay money for Fortnite on G2A.
Well, let's not forget, last Christmas, they were selling box copies of Fortnite at Walmart. You heard me.
What?
They're selling box copies of a free-to-play game at Walmart.
I don't have words. Like, that's,
I'm just gonna walk off now.
Yeah. In any case, so as we wrap up our season 7, hope it's season 7 premiere episode of the Pixel Crashers, something or another. Chat did not send. Oh, there we go. Perfect. As we're wrapping it up on here, if this is your first time tuning in, first of all, hi.
You're 4 years late.
You're 4 years late. We've been doing this for a while. Season 7 on the 7th at 7. No, it was not on the 7th. No. In any case, yeah. If this is your first time tuning in, we do a stream every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We alternate. Every other week, we do a party stream where we stream a co-op video game where we get together, harass each other, make jokes about how Kev is a scrub. Even if he's topping the scoreboard, he's still a scrub. I'd just like to advise
our
everybody
goal
that.
is to make him rage quit.
Yes.
I mean, is that like me on Twitter where my goal is to make the Sony fanboys rage quit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
See, it's called how does it work? It's a vicious circle.
Trolling.
We troll you. You then in turn troll someone else. They troll someone else. It's a cycle. That's how it works.
They trolled the
It's a
Xbox
vicious cycle.
fans.
Yeah, exactly. So in any
Shout out
case,
to the guy that had people hitting Xbox, breaking Xbox Ones with a bat on Twitter, by the way. You the real
Yes.
MVP of the day, brother.
yes. So in any case, for those of you that are that want to watch our podcast streams, that goes on the other week when we're not doing the party stream. We do a podcast stream where us tech professionals get together and chat about the game industry news, and we also try to provide some educational content as to what's going on and how it might benefit or hurt you as a consumer, as opposed to the typical media bias, which tends to focus on the business side of it. And that doesn't always really help you as much. So we try to give you a little bit better of a perspective as a consumer instead. Now, that podcast, if you don't happen to have the chance to watch us live, or for that matter, you don't have a chance to catch the VOD that goes up on YouTube after the fact, you can also listen to the podcast audio, which we upload to all of the major podcast sites, including iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, Overcast, Castbox, Pocket Cast, and Republic Radio. So if you want to hit us up and listen to us while you're listening to it if you want to hit us up and listen to us while you're sitting in traffic, you have more chance to do that. Make sure to subscribe to us wherever you happen to enjoy us. Let us know that you're enjoying things. Give us comments and praise and stuff like that. Except for Kev, make sure to call him a fanboy of Epic, AMD, Razer. He's a fanboy of everything. He's also a Sony fanboy, an Xbox fanboy. He's a Nintendo fanboy. You know, all the things. So in any case,
I'm a fanboy of boobs, and that's it.
No, actually,
chicks.
that's the only thing he's not a fanboy of. That's the only thing he's not a fanboy of. It's crazy. Weird. Anyway, we're going to get signed off here for the night, guys. You can't even spell Logitech. No, actually, you know what? While Rose is praising Logitech in the chat, I am praising Logitech. They're on my shit list. They're straight on my shit list.
Praise Corsair!
If you're going to fucking discontinue the G13 and not give us a new version of that, at least have the fucking consumer respect to port the G13 into the G Hub when you're discontinuing the Logitech gaming software. I'm kind of pissed about that because I can't upgrade to Windows 1903 because LGS doesn't support it and my G13 doesn't work on 1903. So big fuck you to Logitech for that one.
Mine's working.
If you put out a new G13, I would buy it. And there's hundreds of other people that tell me all the time that they want a new G13. I'm just pointing.
Would you buy it before reviews?
No. Why the
Yes,
fuck would
you
I buy
What
it
if it
before
reviewed poorly?
No, I wouldn't. If it were reviewed
What if the
poorly,
Razer one reviewed well?
He hates Razer software.
No. Here's the thing.
He hates Razer.
Here's the thing. The Tartarus and the was it the Ouroboros or the Orb Weaver? I can't remember which one. I think it's the Orb Weaver and the Tartarus. I've had both of those. And guess what? They fucking both broke.
Yeah.
Technical defects. Anyway, we're going to get signed off here for the night, guys. We love y'all. We'll see you guys next week with the party stream. We haven't actually talked about what we're playing next week. So we'll have to get that sorted out and figure that out. Yeah, oh, yes! We're going to be playing Titanfall. It's official because everybody now here... Everybody now has Titanfall here. So we'll be playing some Titanfall next week.
Let me go install that through GOG Galaxy.
Yes, and I think
you get a big middle finger because I got excited. You sent me that link and then it didn't work.
75% of us, 75% of us here have GOG Galaxy 2.0. Kev is the only one that doesn't.
No, I didn't. It don't work for me either. I didn't get the invite.
Oh, well, did
it's
you?
Discrimination, Xaiphen.
Oh, well, anyway, we'll talk about that afterwards. Guys, we're going to get signed off here for the night. Y'all have a good one. We love y'all. And,
praise Lisa Sue!
No, don't.
No, stop, Kev, stop.
No, stop it.
Fraser! Yeah, Fraser!
Kev hurts my brain sometimes.
Actually, I'm going to try and do some screen sharing here for Kev. First, in the podcast chat, there's a link for you, Kev.